WebMeet is an online program that grants businesses and their employees the ability to hold conferences and meetings of any size and at any time over the internet. The company was founded in 2008 by Julian Gonzalez, and within 2 years, WebMeet became the most used corporate software in America, and 8 months after that in the world. The biggest catalyst to the success of WebMeet was definitely the airport, which was designed by Microsoft in early 2009 when WebMeet was really starting to get off the ground. Now, when WebMeet initially was created, the way it worked was that you attended a meeting online with an avatar that you created. You could hear and communicate by voice with the group at the meeting, or you could privately communicate via text with individual members. Now, what the airport did was completely immerse the user in a lifelike 3D virtual reality where you felt like you were literally at a meeting. From this, Microsoft expanded the hardware so that the user could not only use it to attend meetings, but interact socially before the meeting begins and after the meeting ends. So say you're going to a conference at a hotel. Put the airport headset on. You meet your buddies in the hotel lobby before the presentation to review your notes, you do the presentation, and afterwards you can discuss it over, virtual drinks. It really revolutionized how people did business. I mean, companies saved money on travel, on food, on accommodations, what have you. And we saw those savings go towards things like job creation, clean energy, charity work, millions of dollars. It was incredible. And then we found SimulaCorp.
The SimulaCorp case came across my desk around the spring of 2012. SimulaCorp, at the time, was believed to be a consulting firm that companies hired to train employees on the ins and outs of WebMeet. However, we learned that SimulaCorp was really a front for an organized crime group that impersonated businessmen by controlling their avatars on WebMeet.
The Doppelganger division, as they called themselves, started pretty quickly after the airport became popular in 2009. I found out that one of my supervisors had been having his people offer to just control people's avatars online instead of actually training them on how to use WebMeet. I was a little hesitant about it, but I mean, people pretend to be someone else they aren't on the internet all the time, right? Like Facebook, Twitter, that's all acting. People only put stuff online that they want other people to read, to judge them by. It doesn't really matter what personality they put out. People just love knowing that other people know them. It's human nature. We want to be acknowledged. So why not have a professional act as you for you? No more messing up the big presentation, no more being unprepared. With SimulaCorp behind you, you always get applauded. You always kill it. You don't just get acknowledged, you get respected.
As much as Mr. Simon and SimulaCorp sold this service as an adequate substitute for real professionals, this was not the case. A bridge collapsed in Seattle and killed about 100 people because the architect, some guy hired from Sweden, was being controlled by a SimulaCorp employee who miscalculated converting the metric system. I mean, SimulaCorp just stopped even trying. They hired kids out of acting school and promised businessmen and women that these guys would make them look good. Not put forth quality work, but rather a quality persona. But the really ironic thing was that not only was SimulaCorp substituting genuine quality for appearance, but even those facades turned out to be, well, awful.
My main client was a Mr. Jasper W., the CEO and primary stockholder in Southern Oil Company.
Mr. W. had been secretly laundering money from the oil industry to the NRA and at points the KKK to fund white supremacist terrorism in America.
While I was in character online, I had to, multiple times, engage in overtly racist conversations to keep up appearances for Mr. W. Also later, I was forced to transfer money to one of Mr. W's KKK connects, who used that money to buy guns to intimidate and attack black Americans.
Get lost on the internet because it's not real, I mean, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Reddit, Wikipedia, whatever. These are not concrete places people go. I mean, these are constructs. People forget that when they look at their computer on the internet, it's not a finite relationship. Someone's actions on the internet can have almost infinite repercussions. But nobody wants to acknowledge the scale of it or really admit how powerless they are at the hands of the web. So that's where the attitudes come from, the abrasive language, the YouTube comments, cyberbullying. People can't realize that what they do online has real implications, and that leads to these personalities that come through that aren't present in real life. Like we've seen with the unbelievable, obvious racism with Jasper Dubby.
I had a family from Alabama call me when the investigation broke and say that they had a son who had been killed by a member of the Ku Klux Klan, and that his gun had been bought with money they had traced to a check I had virtually signed. I just never thought this could happen.
Another huge problem with WebMeet was the sexual component. People, hackers mostly, would create fake avatars that participated in sexual encounters before or after meetings. And with the sophistication of the airport 3D technology, it really became a super high-end form of pornography.
My client was a man named Larry Maxwell, head of the international communications conglomerate Globecom. Mr. Maxwell and other executives in Globecom often orchestrated events with fantasy women created by some of the guys at the IT department. I, of course, to keep character, had to participate in these activities and watch them in their entirety. There were a couple of times when Mr. Maxwell's taste got a little out of hand.
The worst part was that people like Jill Doherty and Xavier Ware couldn't get help. These were people exposed to the sick whims of those they were acting as, and basically they technically participated in these illegal activities, could not go to the proper authorities until the investigation started.
I think a big cause of the Julian Doherty case was that we as a society have no restrictions on the internet. I mean, in real life, you touch fire, it's hot, you get burned, you learn. But the internet doesn't work like that. I mean, you can download as much free music as you want, barely anyone gets caught, pornography of any kind is readily available to anybody. I mean, you could Google or YouTube videos of people killing themselves and watch it. Your kids could, your mom could. The amount of information we have on the internet is really, truly terrifying. And we have almost no regulations on it, basically none. I mean, I think it's because people use the internet as such an escape. We as a society are so terrified of treading on it that we let people like Jasper Dubby and we let people like Larry Maxwell run rampant, hurting people and destroying lives, just so the rest of us can continue to use the internet rule-free. And the worst part is, we shouldn't even have to have regulations. People should be using the internet to enhance their lives, not ruin others. It could be used as a tool for good.
My name is Ronnie Hart, and about 8 months ago, I was diagnosed with an untreatable form of brain cancer. I have now a little under 2 months until the doctors expect me to die. And my client when I worked at SimulaCorp was Gustav Deisler, a German filmmaker whose film studio is one of the most highly sought after in the world. And Gustav is an incredibly talented and successful individual. He's funny, he's well liked, he's respected, and Gustav was everything I missed about my life before I got sick. After my diagnosis, my wife left me with my kids, and I live alone. I'm just kind of waiting to die, I guess. SimulaCorp and WebMeet were practically the only things that got me out of bed in the morning. It was an escape, I guess, a way to cope with stuff falling apart in my world. I even let some friends from my support groups use Gustav's avatar. They all said it was the most fun they had in a long time. They got to be themselves, not be, sick Mike or sick Dan or sick Ronnie. Just be Ronnie.
SimulaCorp offered a service that has been limited to only an artistic elite centuries. The ability to be someone else without having to go to acting school or learn a new language. You could literally be another person online. I mean, sure, some of those people like W and Maxwell sucked, as some people in real life suck. But others became a haven for some of these guys, who got to be the center of the universe for a couple of hours, a couple of weeks. It was just as much a service to some of our own workers as it was to our clients.
So what did SimulaCorp teach us? What can we learn going forward from this? I think it was more than anything a wake-up call to people. SimulaCorp showed us that we are not masters of our own destiny on the internet. I mean, people forget that when they use the internet, they're participating in a network that they don't really understand. We don't know the internet. We don't know what it's capable of, we don't know its size, and yes, we play with it. We use it so aggressively and unforgivingly that it can define, in the metaphorical and literal sense, life and death in the real world. The internet's not a mirror, it's not a telescope, it's not just from point A to point B anymore. It's this huge labyrinth with a lot of dark, scary corners, and we just run around in it. That should scare the hell out of people. It scares the hell out of me. The good news is, like any good maze, there is an exit. I mean, there is an endpoint where we as a species can utilize the power of the internet properly and efficiently. And then, who knows?